Good afternoon. I'm Senator David Carlucci. Want to welcome everyone here to our Facebook Live town hall, virtual town hall, whatever you want to call it. The idea here is to bring you up to date with what's happening in our community and around the state, given the crisis situation that we're dealing with. Thank you for joining me here tonight. We have seen so many cases here in Rockland and in Westchester County and throughout New York State, and we've really been the canary in the coal mine. I want to thank you for joining us here tonight, and I want to ask everyone that if you'd like to sign up for our text alerts, please do that. Just text the word Carlucci to the number 797979. That's the keyword Carlucci to 797979. And also want to invite everyone, I do a Veterans Advisory Committee, and we're going to be meeting this Thursday at 4 p.m., and we're going to be doing a conference call. So if you are a veteran and would like to join us, this is how we can keep up to date and make sure that we're improving the quality of life of veterans in our communities and around the state of New York. We also do a Senior Advisory Committee and a Student Advisory Committee. So if you're interested in that, please join us, and please contact me at 845-623-3627, and that's a great way for you to stay involved and to make sure we are listening to the issues, talking about the problems, but then really focusing in on the solutions. So even though our office is physically closed, our phone lines and our email remain open to you. Please contact me. Let me know if you're experiencing any problems or if you have questions or suggestions. You can reach me at 845-623-3627 or email me at carlucci@nysenate.gov. So over the past few weeks, we've had so many different guests that have joined us here on this Facebook Live. Tonight, we're really fortunate that we have Chris DeCicco, who is the co-owner of DeCicco's and Sons Supermarkets. And DeCicco and Sons was started back in 1973 in a tiny storefront in the Bronx. And now the supermarket has 8 locations, and DeCicco's and Sons is known for having some of the most diverse craft beer and cheese selections in New York. In addition to their high-quality produce, meat, and seafood. It's one of the things that's really separated DeCicco and Sons is that in this crisis, they've really been a leader in the business community, and their stores were among the first to adjust hours and offer accommodations to seniors and those with compromised immune systems, as well as to add additional time for cleaning. They even closed down on Sundays to make sure that they were giving those protections to their staff and to their customers. And so with that, we're very fortunate that we have Chris DeCicco, who's with us today, to talk a little bit more about that side of the equation. What we've all realized we've become very dependent on is to make sure that the food supply is working and it's in place. So, Chris, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hi, Senator Carlucci. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so, we saw that you were one of the first to really implement the special hours for seniors and for people with compromised immune system. Tell us a little bit about the thinking there and how that has worked, how it's worked out for you and customers and employees.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for us, to back it up a little bit, we really started implementing a lot of these things before anyone else. And a big part of that reason is because we actually saw a lot of family in Italy. And since they were a few weeks ahead of us, they kept filling us in on what was going on in Italy, and we kind of knew what was going to be coming here to the U.S. So because of that, we started implementing a lot of things before other people. So all the way back in late February is when we started really sanitizing all the carts, extra hand sanitizers around the store, wipes, you name it. We started bringing in a commercial OSHA certified cleaning crew every night, all the way back in February. So we really got a jump on this because of that. And then as things started getting a little crazier, a little busier, we started to see that, we really needed senior citizens were kind of getting lost in the shuffle. It became very difficult for them to shop. So it was actually a customer who first brought this to our attention, who came up with the idea and brought it to us and said, why don't you offer, special shopping hours for senior citizens? And, we thought that was a great idea. So let's do it. So back, I believe it was March 15th was the first date. They told us that day, and then the following day we implemented it immediately. So
that's
yeah,
great.
it's been extremely successful. Yeah, and it was really exciting. It was something that I never thought was really going to go national. That all the chains, I'm happy all the bigger chains picked up on it, and it grew. I don't know if for a fact we were the first ones, but I never heard of it before the customer brought it to my attention. So because we're a small store, we're able to implement things very quickly. Unlike the bigger chains, it takes time. They have to get approval. It's got to go up the ladder. So the idea came to us, and we said, you know what, let's do it. Next day, we were doing it. It was great.
What are some of the other things that you guys are doing that we might not hear about in the news? Have there been other steps to make sure that the stores are clean and that the employees are safe?
Yeah, so I mean, every night we have a full professional cleaning crew come in. They pretty much fog and sanitize the entire store. So everything gets fully cleaned. Pretty much, as far as the health department, this is what they would like to happen if there was a case in the store. So we do this every night, regardless, case, not, doesn't matter. Every single night, we do this in every single store. So it gets scrubbed top to bottom. Everything gets sanitized, pretty much, the best way you possibly can. So that's extremely important.
Yeah, that's incredible, and I know with your stores, that's something that you guys have really built a reputation for. That everything is really spotless and the cleanliness. So I know in this time particularly that customers as well as employees, I know really appreciate that. One of the things I was talking to some other retailers that were talking about the idea of what we've seen some of the retailers do, like Walmart is now checking the temperature of all their employees before they go on and work. And we know that this isn't foolproof, that temperature is just one of many indicators that might mean that someone has COVID-19 or any other spreadable disease.
Sure.
And so the other part was that people are talking about, okay, well, how about customers having their temperature taken as they're coming in the doors? So this is something that I've been talking to my colleagues in the Senate about to see, okay, what are the realities behind that, and what do we need to do to make that another tool in the toolbox that people can use to help keep our community safe? Have you guys thought about that? What do you think about temperature taking?
No, we definitely have, and we're actually in the process trying to get thermometers, more of the forehead ones, the ones that you're not doing physical contact. Really for employees at this point, I mean, customers, it gets a little hairy right now at this point. We're obviously not trained nurses. We're not, first line people. So it's a little tricky for us right now. So we're not completely against it. It's just, I don't know how to really carry that out at this point. We would need definitely some support, from the government in some way, and how to carry that out if it goes to a customer basis.
Right.
But we might need to go there at some point. So.
Yeah, and that's, we saw the governor today. He was talking about how we reopen and how we do it in phases, and how I believe that there's going to be many of these protections and new requirements that have to be taken into consideration. So one of them, like, you just mentioned, it's okay, it sounds like a great idea to take people's temperatures, but how do you actually do that? And are you impeding on somebody's civil rights or on their, HIPAA violations and all that? So we've been exploring the idea, and we know in New York we have some really robust civil rights laws on the books that really protect people. And we saw that if we were taking people's temperatures as they were walking through the door, that it might infringe upon that. So we're looking at legislation that would give the protection to the store to know, okay, well, this is the best practice. If you were going to take someone's temperature, this is how you would do it. So I think you're exactly right that we have to develop that best practice and have it as, not that it would be mandatory, but another tool in the toolbox that you could use.
Right. No, absolutely, 100%. We would definitely need guidance from you guys on how to carry something like that out because, that's completely out of our realm of what we know how to do, I mean,
Right.
we sell food, taking people's
One of the
temperatures.
things, right. It's a whole different game, right? We're asking you
Completely
to do
different.
all these things now. Um, the one of the things we saw, you were in an article by the Journal News where it talked about how Captain Lawrence Brewery, which has become a very popular brewery, not just here locally in the Hudson Valley, but really around the country. But it looked like they had turned their operation over to making hand sanitizer. Could you tell us a little bit about that and how you guys were involved in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really good friends with Scott Vaccaro, the owner of Captain Lawrence. Back in 2005, 2006, the same time we were opening our Ardsley store. And he's right down the street from us. So we became very friendly. And what happened was he opened a distillery recently right next door called Current Spirits, right next to Captain Lawrence. And there was a huge shortage of hand sanitizer. But I mean, the main ingredient in hand sanitizer is alcohol. So pretty much distilled alcohol. So at 80%. So once I realized there was a huge shortage, I gave him a call. I said, Scott, what are the chances you could make some hand sanitizer? I know you're not in the business of hand sanitizer, but you make the main ingredient to it. So he was like, you know what? He's like, let me see. So he looked into it, figured it out. It's actually very easy for them to do. And within 2 weeks, he was pumping out a big supply and sending us over some great locally made hand sanitizer. So it fulfilled a need. It was great, helped a local business. And yeah, it worked out great.
So now, was that hand sanitizer that you guys were selling to the public, or was it just you were using it at the store for employees?
Yeah,
Okay.
both. So we needed to supply more for our employees as well. Plus, he was able to make smaller sizes, 4 ounce, 8 ounce, 10 ounce, that we could sell to consumers. So that worked
Okay,
out
great.
great. Yeah, and then from that, we actually said, you know what? What other local businesses could we approach and try to help out? So since then, we've also approached many restaurants to sell their food in our stores now, which is pretty
Oh,
cool.
great.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay. So, yeah, tell us about that. What are some of the things, and has it been successful?
yeah, no, it's been huge. So basically, what happened was in our situation, we had a huge percentage of employees that were, we were, at a certain point, we had a third of our employees that were out of work, mostly because they were scared to work. So we were
Mm.
extremely short-staffed. So what happened was most of our kitchens had to be shut down. Much of our different departments we had to shut down. So we said, you know what? What about the restaurants out there? They need places to sell their food because
Hmm.
they can only do takeout. What if we reach out to some of our local friends and have them make food that we could then sell to a consumer to buy and go? So that's been hugely successful. We started with Fortina in Armonk. They have multiple locations in Westchester. With Dave Dabari as the cookery and parlor, he's doing frozen pizzas for us.
Mm.
There's a Mexican restaurant in Armonk. So we have a whole bunch of restaurants that we're adding on to this program where we're now selling the local restaurants, their food in our stores to go. So it's been great.
So we've all been very concerned about the food supply and the
Yeah,
distribution and how that works. And, we've seen products, the obvious, like the hand sanitizer,
right.
the wipes, the disinfectants. I mean, obviously, that's something that we know, okay, that makes sense why it's disappearing. Then we hear about the toilet paper and the hoarding that's going on. And we also, my office, our phone was ringing at one time specifically on the price gouging and the
Yeah,
concerns when people saw the price of staples like eggs, which we know now has hit an all-time high.
right.
I learned more about the commodities market than I ever knew
Yeah.
before, in
Oh yeah.
researching that. But maybe you could speak a little bit about the food supply, how that's been disrupted. Are there concerns that you have long term? What are some of the things that are problematic right now, and what, from your point of view, being there on the front lines and living this, what are the things that you're concerned about for us to watch out for in the coming months?
Absolutely. Really what it comes down to, I mean, manufacturers are caught off guard with all this. Like they just did not expect this huge demand, this hoarding that was going to happen. And nobody foresaw this. So especially with items like toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, these are items that they sell at a certain rate all time throughout the year. Like there's not
Mm.
many peaks and valleys of this stuff. So,
Right,
people using the same amount of toilet paper today they are in December, they are in January. It doesn't change. It's
right,
a very
right.
it's very consistent. So the whole supply was not ready for this huge demand. So it completely wiped out everything that was in all the warehouses, the trucking, everything was wiped out. And toilet paper, paper towels specifically, they still have not recovered. They're
Hmm.
slowly getting there, but they're telling me it won't be until about 6 months from now until they're fully back up where they should be.
Wow.
So that's the one.
Now with the toilet paper, I've read about this where, they're saying that okay, now all these people have like a 6 month supply of toilet
Right,
paper, so they're not going to have to go back and buy it for a long time. So it might
exactly,
even out
exactly.
that demand, at least on the paper product.
So 100%. So that's the thing. Like toilet paper, paper towels, they will be there, and they are coming back a little more regular. You will see them, but you might not get the specific type you want, and that's what it comes down
Mm.
to. So, like for us, we reached out to a lot of restaurant distributors. So, since the restaurants were closed, they had all the single serve toilet paper, single paper towels. We were able to purchase all that from them and be able to offer that to customers, which,
Okay.
it's fine. You could do it, but,
Okay.
so that was its own issue. And then beyond that, a lot of the manufacturers, they've completely cut back on variety. They're only producing the top varieties of what they make. So
Mm.
the food, everything will keep coming, but you might not be able to find the specific variety you want, especially if it's a little more unknown variety. So I'll give you an example, like Mission Wraps and Tortillas. They're probably the main company that makes the burritos, the wraps. All we're getting is original. They normally have 30 varieties: spinach, whole wheat,
Mm.
organic. None of that's coming in. It's just all
Mm.
original. It's all they're pumping out. It's much quicker for them to make one variety and just make a ton of it. So that's where the variety is going to be an issue going forward. So you're getting the main varieties, but not the smaller, limited items. So that's
Yeah.
one issue. Then when it comes to commodities, yes, eggs was a huge issue a few weeks ago. The price shot up like crazy. And a lot of people don't understand commodity pricing. That changes day to day. And people thought that they were being gouged in prices, but
Right.
the egg market, produce, these things change daily. And
Yeah.
thankfully, most of the commodity pricing has gotten back to somewhat level normal prices, with the exception of now you have beef, chicken, pork. Those are now getting a little out of whack.
Okay.
And that is a big part of because a lot of the manufacturers having to close their plants right now. So
Mm.
because of the virus, which is causing issues in the supply chain. Overall, it's not going to be a huge issue. I really don't think so. But there is some limited supply issues, and that is causing a little bit of spikes in those areas at the moment.
Mm.
So overall, food will keep coming. You might not get the
Yeah.
exact
Okay.
one you want, but food will keep coming. I promise.
Right. So you think, the next few months it might be very challenging for things like meat, you said beef, chicken, pork. Um, what are some of the things that we might not be thinking about that you think, hey, there might be some problems here in the food supply?
Overall, it's getting much more consistent. There
Okay.
are a few like little exceptions. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine texted me yesterday. He's like, "Why can't I find ginger anywhere?" And
Okay.
I was like, "The reason is because 60% of the world's supply comes from China, and they were shut down for
Mm.
months. And because of that, I mean, we have a lot of domestic ginger here that we produce and we sell. But because 60% of the world supply was cut off, a lot of our ginger is going international now. So the supply has been
Right.
cut down and it's very hard to get. So you have a few specific items like that, which will come into play. But overall, as far as commodities, produce, those type of things, it is slowly getting back to normal, which is great. So,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's something we've heard, particularly with China, that we first started when everything was happening, and China was the first. We were hearing about electronics, that all of these types of supplies that are made in China, we're
Yeah,
going to have a hard time getting. I know
right.
someone had told me this is a couple months ago. They said, microwaves. You're not going to be able to buy a microwave pretty soon because there's one specific part that's made there that
Exactly.
you just can't get. So
It's things you don't
that's
think
interesting.
of, but yeah, it's a whole
So
new
now
world.
you guys, you carry quite a few products that come right from Italy. And
Yeah,
Italy has been hit so hard. And like you said, it kind of having the family that you have and friends in Italy kind of tipped you off to what was
yeah.
going on and got you ready to prepare as best as you could for the situation. Do you see, is that an issue as well? Products that are coming from Italy, have they been slowed down or shut off?
Absolutely, all around the world.
Yeah.
Because there's been such a dramatic, especially fresh products. So produce, fish, things like that that are flown over. It's been an issue. So
Mm.
because there's so many less flights now, international flights, a lot of people don't realize even on passenger flights, in the cargo is there's product down there that's
Mm.
it's not just people's luggage. There's fish down there,
Wow.
there's produce down there that's being sent over on those planes. So there
Interesting.
are fewer outlets for these products to come over. So those have
Mm.
been affected to a certain extent. The stuff coming over in boats a little bit, so it slowed it down a little bit. But from what I hear, it's also starting to slowly get back to normal. We shall see.
Yeah.
But
And how is it going in the store? Obviously, like you said, employees have to be fearful, and rightfully so. They're right there on the front lines. And now we have an order where everyone is supposed to be wearing a mask, to cover their nose and mouth. How has that been going? It must be difficult, I'm sure, being, a grocer, selling groceries, but yet you have to be responsible for all these other things. And that's also trying to make sure that your customers are practicing social distancing, using common sense.
yeah.
How have you found that? Have people been abiding by that, and how do you get them to, wear a mask when they're in the store?
Right. I mean, it's for the most part, everybody's been very accepting of it. They want to do the right thing, the majority of
Yeah.
people. And when we started social distancing long before we had to do social distancing. And when we did it, that's before we cut back the amount of customers in the store. And that first week things went crazy with the hoarding and all that, that was about March 14th, March 15th weekend. After that weekend, we said, this is crazy. You can't do social distancing in this setting like this. We need to cut back the amount of people we allow in the stores, which we did the following day. We cut it back to about 40%, and since then we cut it down to 30%. It's the only way to do social distancing. For the supermarkets, they're not built for it. They're just not.
Right.
So we had to really start rearranging things in the store, try to get things, give customers as much room as possible. And people have been very understanding for the most part. They definitely have. And, they know it's for their benefit, it's for our employees' benefit. There's no reason not to do it. So,
Right.
Right now, because we're limiting the amount of customers in the store, some lines form outside. Some people get a little testy. It
Yeah.
is what it is. I mean, it's a stressful situation for everybody, unfortunately. And, we're trying to make it as stress-free as possible. It's
Hmm.
a little challenging, but we've added music outside for the customers waiting.
Oh, good.
We're trying to lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I've seen tempers are getting, pushed to the
yeah,
limits,
right,
and especially when
exactly.
someone is concerned about getting the food that they need and that. And so, yeah, I've definitely seen short fuses
Yeah,
at times. So,
for sure. So
yeah,
that's why
yeah,
we're definitely trying to make it as pleasant as possible in this situation, which is hard. It's very hard to do. So, I mean, we
yeah.
even have, I think my cousin Regina, the professional comedian.
Yep.
She's a
Of
warm-up
course.
comedian for The View. We have her coming to the stores, and she's literally working the line, trying to keep people
Oh,
entertained.
oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I mean, we're doing whatever we can to try to, make it more of a positive atmosphere and just not as stressful as it has. I mean, we always prided ourselves in the experience of shopping. A lot of people
Hmm.
hate going to the supermarket and shopping. So we always try to make it a pleasant experience, a fun shopping experience, and it's very challenging in these times. Trying to get,
Yeah.
it's stressful. It's very stressful. So as
Hmm.
much as we could do, whatever we could do to de-stress people, let them relax, and
Right. Yeah, it could be a stressful time in, the best of conditions,
yeah,
waiting in line and or, so no, definitely. So I don't envy you in that position. Um, Yeah, this is, but I have a theory, and I've been talking to some providers like yourself, and that I think that customers, they'll wait, they'll wait in line, they'll seek you out, they'll travel if they feel that you're doing all the right things, knowing that you're going that extra step to keep the store clean, to do those extra sanitation measures, to practice social distancing. I think it's a selling feature as well. You can't pack as many people in the store, but it's a better customer experience. And I think, especially in this time, that's something that people, I think, really value. So I think you guys have obviously done that well.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
majority of people appreciate it. They understand. They get it. They'd rather wait a few minutes, be safe, than be jammed in a store with 100 people. It's crazy right now. You can't do that. It's not good for
So
anyone.
I have a few questions coming in on
Yeah.
the Facebook Live, and some of them I got a couple here, and this is interesting. One is saying DeCicco is my favorite store, and I was happy to see them handing out gloves at the entrance. The problem was that not all customers wore them and proceeded to touch merchandise with their bare hands that they were not purchasing. I brought it to the attention of the store employee, who was dismayed, but did not approach anyone to correct this unsanitary behavior. So is that something you guys are doing as well, distributing gloves?
We started distributing gloves back in February for all.
Oh, wow.
So it's been mandatory for employees since February. We have been
Hmm.
supplying the gloves since February for all customers, but it is not mandatory for customers. We strongly encourage them, but some people have
Right.
allergies to the gloves. They can't wear
Ah,
them. But if they're not wearing the gloves, we at least have the hand sanitizer for them to clean their hands. So as long as their
right.
hands are clean when they walk in, it's, you know, it's as much as we could do to get them to shop with clean hands, sanitized
Right.
hands. If it's the gloves, sometimes the gloves gives a false perception of cleanliness, because
Yeah,
you start
exactly.
touching dirty things, it's the same thing. So
Yeah.
if you're not wearing the gloves, at minimum you got to sanitize your hands when you walk in the store.
Right.
You need
Right.
those clean hands. Absolutely. So
Yeah, because there's a few questions about that. Yeah, people are asking about the masks, and then I have a question about delivery. And are you guys
yeah,
doing a delivery service, and how is that working for you? Have you always done that, or is this a new
so
program for you guys?
we've always done delivery in store, which has always been something we've always provided, but we're limited in what we could do ourselves. It's just, you can only physically do so many a day. So back in January, we started Instacart in our stores as well as our own. So luckily, we started it before all this happened, and they've been able to provide a large percentage of our deliveries. Right now, the total about 20% of our sales is coming from delivery at the moment.
Hmm. Wow.
However, everyone is extremely overwhelmed with delivery. It's
Yeah.
unfortunately a lot of these Instacart ourselves, they just can't handle the pure volume of deliveries there
Yeah.
are, which is a huge problem. And nobody was built for this volume. We can't do it ourselves. Instacart can't do it. They keep hiring thousands and thousands of employees to try to catch up, but it's almost impossible. And us ourselves are trying to catch up. We had it back about 3 weeks ago. We had a backlog of a few thousand deliveries just for ourselves. But we had to halt our delivery process in order to catch up, just to get back up to where we are. So just now we're starting to take in new deliveries for ourselves to do it. So it's very challenging because nobody was built for this volume of deliveries.
Right. Has the volume died down at all? Is it still, we all have to eat, we all have to, buy the essential products, and so that obviously continues. But people initially start stocking up, not knowing, hey, will the food supply shut down? Will supermarkets be closed? I mean, these were all the questions that were going through everyone's head a month and a half ago. Now
100%.
we've gotten a little bit more used to it. Have you seen volume? Is it getting a little bit back to normal, or is it still where it
The
was?
volume is definitely leveling off. It's not where
Okay.
mid-March it was crazy. People didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if we were going to have to close. Nobody knew what was happening. It was a very scary time for everyone. I completely understand why the
Yeah.
hoarding happened.
Yeah.
I mean, us ourselves didn't know. Are they going to shut us down? Can we not provide
Right.
food for communities? Like we didn't know.
Right.
Nobody knew.
Hmm.
So now that it's the new norm, people are understanding. It's getting a lot more consistent. We're not having the crazy ups and downs of the days. Pretty much every day is very consistent with the volume we're doing. So, and we're not going to run out of food. That's just, it's not going to happen. That's not an issue. I know a month and a half ago people were scared of that. I completely understand, but nobody needs to worry about these days. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Food will keep coming.
Do you think, have we learned lessons? Are there things that insight you could provide us in terms of keeping the food supply safe? After Hurricane Sandy, we talked a lot about hardening infrastructure, things we had to do when you lose electricity for a certain amount of time. One of the laws that I was able to pass was requiring backup generators at certain gas stations around New York State, because, we didn't really think about, wait, you lose electricity, you might have gas in the ground, but you can't pump it, so, and that was a real problem, as you remember. So I'm just thinking, we all have to take this as a learning experience. And I think the crisis has really exposed so many weak points in our society, in our government. And one that we know is extremely important is the food supply. Are there ways that we can harden it, we can protect it against the next unforeseen event that, who knows what it is? Are there any things that you're thinking that could really help us the next time around?
Yeah, I mean, these are definitely things that we're thinking about on our end. I know the manufacturers are thinking this now, the distributors are thinking this now. We never really thought about this as much as we are now. Years ago, it wasn't so much about fresh products. There's a lot about canned goods that lasted for years and whatnot. So stores would bulk up. They had a large supply of product. As things have changed, it's gone a lot more to fresh product. A lot of stores are not keeping the amount of inventory on hand they used to. But that's important now, is having some of that backup just in case of these emergencies. So, things that we're thinking about, I'm sure people can think about at home too, is, having some of those canned goods as backup in their house. You always think of the hurricanes and things like that. And nobody ever thought about something like this, a pandemic. Like, it's just very few people alive ever lived through something like this.
Right.
At least in the U.S. So this is all new, and we're definitely thinking very differently. I'm sure people at home are thinking differently. And I mean, really canned things, frozen things like that could last, that you don't have to worry about for quite a while, or I think are great to have on hand.
So really that old, not recreating the wheel, but that old thought that, be prepared, have some water, have some canned food, have enough for the family to last a certain amount of time. Something that we've done with the governor's office over the past few years in response to Irene and Sandy was these emergency disaster plans. And I think that's something that we're going to have to start up again once the social distancing gets loosened. We would do these with the National Guard, where people would come in and get a basic training, but then leave with an actual backpack full of some emergency supplies, not necessarily food, but some of the things like a first aid kit, other things like that, just to be prepared, a flashlight, that if you have to not only have some things in your home, but also be ready to leave if you have to. And that was thinking about more, I mean, it could be, with any type of natural disaster, but that's where we have to start thinking on the other side, in terms of, hey, a pandemic, other things like that, who knows what's next. But these lessons, So I have a question, this one about this is a question for me about, has the state rethought or at least delayed the ban on grocery store plastic bags? Originally, this was supposed to start in March, but I see some stores in North New Jersey still giving them out because of COVID. Well, obviously, New Jersey, New York, we've got separate laws, but in New York, we did pass the plastic bag ban, and I know that was it was controversial, in doing that. But obviously, I thought in the long term, this is the best thing for us. How has that been working out for you guys? Have you heard anything about that? People pushing back or trying to delay it because of what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we actually eliminated plastic bags 18 months ago, so long
Hmm.
before it was mandatory or they're even talking about doing this. So for us, it hasn't had any effect. But I mean, I
Yeah.
understand, the reason for it and whatnot. And I know some stores, the idea of bringing the plastic bags back right now for this time being, it's quicker. You put the bags in the plastic. Reusable bags being somewhat of an issue, bringing those into the store
Hmm.
because of, it's always been because of bacteria in the bags. More,
Right.
it was always the concern foodborne illnesses in there. Like
Right.
a lot of
Right.
chicken spills in there. You got to be
Hmm.
careful. They
Hmm.
got to be cleaned. So that's been the issue. So I know a lot of stores want to bring back the plastic bags right now during this time period because, I mean, I get it. For us, like I said, we got rid of plastic bags 18 months ago. So for us, it
Yeah.
really was, this didn't affect us at all, the plastic ban.
So do you
But
find that most customers are they know and they're coming in with reusable bags, or how do you accommodate people with the plastic bag ban, and that you guys have been ahead of the curve on that?
yeah, we've always offered the paper bags. So, I mean, we have an option and we've never charged unless we legally had to charge. So only two of the towns we're in has a fee. So that's a town fee. But otherwise, we
Hmm.
don't charge for the paper bags. So it was
Hmm.
pretty seamless when we did it.
Hmm.
Um, right. But yeah, I mean, they're pretty good with it. The reusable bags coming in, so that was part of the issue because, like I said, people are scared of what could potentially be on the bag coming in. So we kind of have a policy in place that if people bring in reusable bags, that the customer would need to bag their own groceries for themselves.
Hmm.
So it's
Okay.
kind of to take any fear off of the cashier or the baggers that we
Hmm.
have touching the bags. So customers are bagging their own reusable groceries.
So we have a question. They ask, has the pandemic delayed the opening of new locations, such as the new store in Eastchester?
Yes, definitely have.
Okay.
Somewhat. So when they announced no construction for about 2 week period, that involved supermarkets as well. But then Governor Cuomo came back and changed it and said the supermarkets are essential, so construction could get back up and running. So that did delay us a little bit. Construction is back and up and running in Eastchester. So we're
Okay.
looking for sometime in the summer. We'll see.
Okay.
The
Oh,
original
great.
plan was June, so push us back a
Oh,
few
great.
weeks. So
So
it
that'll be
won't,
the not.
unfortunately, it won't be able to open with all the things we're known for. Some of the hot foods,
Okay.
the bars. We have a
Right.
burger restaurant there. We do the pubs in the stores. You can get a glass of beer, all that. Unfortunately, we can't open with, but
Hmm.
yeah, unfortunately, they've been delayed a little bit.
And so that will that be your ninth store?
Yes, that'll be the ninth. Correct.
Okay, great. Great.
Yeah.
Are there plans for other stores
Yeah, I
expanding
mean
beyond that?
we're growing. Yeah, we have a
Hmm.
few more stores in the works. We'll see. This delayed us a little bit, but
Sure.
yeah, we will see.
Well, yeah, no, well, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you spending the time with me today and sharing this and getting an inside look of what it's like behind the scenes in terms of making sure the food, stays on the shelves and makes it to all of our tables. So, I really appreciate your time and appreciate the forward thinking that you guys have done. We talk about we passed the bag ban. Some people were not happy about it, but you guys saw that it was the right thing to do and did it well before anyone told you to do it. And the same with the store hours, opening it up for seniors and those with compromised immune systems. So you're really ahead of the curve, and I know I appreciate that, and the residents of our community do as well. And so thank you, and please keep up the great work and keep us informed of as you are thinking of ideas. This is great, and the best practices that we can share across the board.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Senator. It was great being here.
Good. Thanks, Chris. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Well, I want to